sailing in the Pacific Northwest has its own challenges. In August of 2022, after a few days of sailing in heavy weather, coming down from the Broughton Islands to Desolation Sound, our exhausted minds failed to read the tide and current charts correctly. We soon found ourselves headed towards tidal rapids during max flood, a situation we hope to never be in again. The month of August in the Broughton Islands is commonly referred to as Fogust by many of the locals. It definitely lived up to its name as we found ourselves in a blanket of fog the majority part of each day. But its moody vibes were peaceful, and we took advantage of the calm mornings to throw a line in the water and catch some salmon. Humpback whales were always a delightful surprise when one of us would spot the misty exhale of their breath. In the foggy mornings, sometimes you would hear them before spotting their dark figure emerge to the surface. Afternoon would bring blue skies and a lovely breeze, making for a great sail to our next anchorage. But as evening approached, it was always a race against the encroaching fog bank. Our last night in the Brottens, we dropped the hook in Lady Boot Cove, just as a blanket of fog tucked us in for the night. We rowed to shore where a tiny midden beach awaited us. The sound of crunching shells beneath our boots echoed throughout the bay. I rowed the dinghy around, looking for creatures among the shallow water, and to my surprise, I saw a ton of starfish. But their appearance mesmerized me, as they were blue with white spots, nothing I have ever seen before. It was so quiet and still that evening, all alone among the desolate islands. We woke to a tranquil morning and said our goodbyes to the Broughton Islands, which felt far too soon. But a storm was headed our way, and we needed to get through Jstone Strait before its arrival within the next few days. Tight spot we just went through. A beautiful downwind sail took us to our next anchorage that night. Tucked behind a small island, we dropped the anchor and explored the nearby beach before heading to bed. We slept peacefully as we floated in stillness, watching the fog swiftly cover the surrounding treetops. The next morning arrived early, and our motor hummed along the glassy water as we headed into Jstone Strait. The afternoon would bring gale force winds, and we were determined to sail through a set of rapids with both the wind and current predicted to be in our favor. But as most things in nature, one's arrival can't always be predicted precisely. With the wind and current fighting one another, we and two other sailboats sloshed around in the choppy seas. After 10 hours underway, tired and cranky, we turned the helm toward our anchorage. With immediate disappointment, we found the wind funneling into our anchorage and an active logging camp awaited us. But it actually ended up being a pretty magical evening as we explored the nearby lagoon. All was good, all was safe, and all was ready for a good night's sleep. But that night, the wind blew strong, and in the morning our puffy eyes, lacking the much desired sleep, read the tide and current charts for the route we had planned that day. Either a lack of proper info or misreading the chart led us to our first rapids of the day, Dent Rapids, famous for its raging whirlpool known as Devil's Hole. All cruising guidebooks strongly warn boaters of the danger of these rapids, especially during a large tide. 3 rapids awaited us: Dent Rapids, Gillard Passage, and Yokotel Rapids, all of which we were about to hit at max flood, but fortunately during a smaller tide. However, navigating these rapids were still terrifying. As you approach Little Dent Island during a flood, heading south, which was our case, the tidal stream forces a major deflection of current over to Sonora Island. We hit 11.5 knots as we entered this section of rapids. To our left, we quickly passed by Devil's Hole, going 13 knots, a terrifying whirlpool that was way too close for comfort, and the back eddies were just as frightening. As we approached Gillard Passage, I felt more nervous about this one. So nervous, I ended up recording inside the cockpit most of the time on accident. But an unseen danger lies beneath the water here. A long fjord carrying fresh water and logs intersects these rapids, creating a possible situation where logs could be trapped between the layer of fresh water and salt water, out of view for boaters. Hitting a log at 11 to 13 knots could easily sink a boat. The entrance to Gillard's Passage seemed less turbulent than Dent Rapids, but what I didn't get on film was that we reached a choke point where we had no choice but to throttle up and motor through a large whirlpool, the size of a car, hoping we didn't get shot into the back eddy.
I think this is the hardest part.
Right here.
Right here.
Because there's a log right there.
But no, that's a seal.
A sea lion?
Yeah.
Oh. Here we go. Oh, please be careful.
Here we go, Bubs. We're still doing like over 12.
The last set of rapids, known as Yokotel Rapids, was in a more open channel with less hazards. However, we still passed several large whirlpools before we officially reached safer waters.
Right.
With almost a decade of sailing together, we still make mistakes. Even with careful planning, tide and current predictions can still be a little off. It's important to be prepared and educate yourself about how to safely navigate these waterways and rapids. And be sure to check multiple sources for up-to-date tides and currents. It's an added challenge when sailing this part of the world, but absolutely worth it to experience the beauty these serene places offer. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.